Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So thank you all for joining us in person and online for the morning program. I thought this week in Richmond we could read together the story of Bali Maharaj and Lord Vamanadev. It's a wonderful story in Canto 8 of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we can read a few verses and just, on Saturday, I'll give a more formal class, but in these mornings, we can do more of a informal discussion format. We can read together, and as there are questions and comments and thoughts, I will share them, and you're also welcome to raise any questions or share any comments or thoughts that you have as we work our way towards this through the story. So we'll begin today at near the beginning of the story and then continue onward and come to the climax of the story on Saturday when the Lord punishes and blesses Bali Maharaj. So let's begin with Canto 8, Chapter 18. And this is, let's see, where we're at. Yeah, Canto 8, Chapter 18, text number 20, 8:18:20. So if you have a phone or a device or something, you can follow along from there, unless your phone is being used to Zoom. Okay, everyone have it? It's 8:18:20. Shrutvashvameधैर् यजमानमूर्जितम्
Shrutvā svameधैर्यजमानमूर्जितम्
बलिं भृगूनामुपकल्पितैस्तथा
बलिं भृगूनामुपकल्पितस्तथा
जगाम तत्राखिलसारसंवृतो
जगाम तत्र किल सर्वसंवृतो
भारेण गां सन्नमयन् पदे पदे
भारेण गां सन्मयं पदे पदे
वाश्वमेधैर्यजमानमूर्जितम्
श्रुत्वा स्वमेधैर्यजमानमूर्जितम्
बलिं भृगूनामुपकल्पितैस्तथा
बलिं भृगूनामुपकल्पितस्तथा
जगाम तत्राखिलसारसंवृतो
जगाम तत्राखिलसारसंवृतो
गां सन्नमयन् पदे पदे
भारेण गां सन्मयं पदे पदे
श्रुत्वा स्वमेधैर्यजमानमूर्जितम्
श्रुत्वा स्वमेधैर्यजमानमूर्जितम्
बलिं भृगूनामुपकल्पितैस्तथा
बलिं भृगूनामुपकल्पितस्तथा
जगाम तत्र अखिलसारसंवृतो
जगाम तत्र किलसारसंवृतो
Inagam Sanmayan Pade Pade.
Bharena Gansanmayan Pade Pade. Krutva Spadhair Yajmanam Urjitam. Balim Bhrigunam Upakalpatasthata. Jagam Tatra Kilasara Samrato. Hare Nagam Sanmayan Pade Pade. Hare Nagam Sanmayan Pade Pade.
Swamede Yajamanamurjitam
Shruva Samedher Yajamanamurjitam.
Alim Rajottam Upakalpitaistata
Balim Bhrigunam Upakalpitaistata.
Jagam Tatra Kilasara Samruto
Jalam Kilasara Samrito.
Nagam Samayan Pade Pade
Bhare Asamsanayam Pade Pade. Shrutva
After hearing.
after hearing
Ashvamedhai.
Ashvamedhai
Ashvamedha sacrifices.
by the sacrifices.
Yajamanam.
Yajamanam
The performer.
the performer.
Urjitam.
Urjitam
Very glorious.
very glorious.
Balim.
Balim
Bali Maharaj.
Bali Maharaj.
Bhrigunam.
Bhrigunam
Under the guidance of the Brahmanas born in the Bhrigu dynasty.
under the guidance of the Brahmanas born in the Bhrigu dynasty.
Upakalpitai.
Upakalpitai
Performed. Tata.
From
That place.
that place.
Jagama.
Jagama
Went.
went
Tatra.
Atra
There.
there.
Akhila Sar Sambrita.
Akhila Sambrita.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead.
The essence of all creation.
The essence of all creation.
Harena.
Harena
With the weight.
with the weight.
Gam.
God
The earth.
the earth.
Mayan.
Sanamayan
Depressing.
depressing.
Pade Pade.
Pade Pade
Step.
at every step.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. When the Lord heard that Bali Maharaj was performing Ashvamedha sacrifices under the patronage of Brahmanas belonging to the Bhrigu dynasty, Supreme Lord, who is full in every respect, proceeded there to show his mercy to Bali Maharaj. By his weight, he pushed down the earth with every step. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Akhila Sara Samhita. In other words, he is the proprietor of everything essential in this material world. Thus, although the Lord was going to Bali Maharaj to beg something, he is always complete and has nothing to beg from anyone. Indeed, he is so powerful that in his full opulence, he pressed down the surface of the earth at every step. Let's read a few more. Tam Narmadayas Tata Uttare Baler.
Tam Narmadaya Stata Uddare Vale.
Yaritijate Brigukaccha Samyake.
Yati Dvajaste Upash.
Avartayanto Bhigavat Pratuttamam. Yachakshratara Duditam Yatharavim. While engaged in performing the sacrifice in the field known as Brigukaccha on the northern bank of the Narmada River, the Brahminical priests, the descendants of Bhrigu, saw Vamanadev to be like the sun rising nearby. Vijo Yajamana Sadasya
Teritvijo Yajamana Sadasya
Hatat Visho Vamana Tejasanipa
Bhatat Vishoma Tejasanirpa
Surya Kilaya Yutava Vidhavasu
Surya Kilaya Vibhavasu
Kumaro Tatidrikshaya Krato
Sat Kumaro Dadridishaya Krato.
O king, because of Vamanadev's bright effulgence, the priests, along with Bali Maharaj and all the members of the assembly, were robbed of their splendor. Thus they began to ask one another whether the sun god himself, Sanat Kumar, or the fire god had personally come to see the sacrificial ceremony. Itam sashisheshu brigushvane kadha vitarkyamano bhagavan savamana
Vrikatyamano Bhagavan Savamana
tram sadandam sajalam kamandalum
Chatram Sagandam Sajalam Kamandalum
Vishabhipradayamedhavatam
Visheshamedavatam.
While the priests of the Bhrigu dynasty and their disciples talked and argued in various ways, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vamanadev, holding in his hands the rod, the umbrella, and a water pot full of water, entered the arena of the Ashwamedha sacrifice. Monja me khalaya vitam
Jabe Kadaya Vita
Bhavita jinottaram
Upavita Najotaram
Idam vamanam vipram
Jatilam Vamanam Vipram
Mayam harim
Mayam Madhavakam Harim
Pravishtam vikshya bhrigava
Pravishtam Vikshabrigava
Sashishyaste sahagnivi
Sashishyaste Sahagnivi
Pratyakrindan samuthaya
Pratakskrinan Samuthaya
Kshiptastasya tejasa
Samsiftasya
Appearing as a Brahmin boy, wearing a belt of straw, a sacred thread, an upper garment of deerskin, and matted locks of hair, Lord Vamanadev entered the arena of sacrifice. His brilliant effulgence diminished the brilliance of all the priests and their disciples, who thus stood from their seats and welcomed the Lord properly by offering obeisances. Yajamana pramudito
Yajamana
Shaniyam manoramam
Darshaniyam Manoramam
Panurupa vayavam
Rupanirupam
Asma asanamaharat
Tasmanisamaharat
Bali Maharaj, jubilant at seeing Lord Vamanadev, whose beautiful limbs contributed equally to the beauty of his entire body, offered him a seat with great satisfaction. Svagatena bhinandyatha Bhagavato Bali
Bhagavato Bali
Avanijyarchayamasa
Avidyachamasa
Tasanga manoramam
Mukta Sangharamam.
Thus offering a proper reception to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always beautiful to the liberated souls. Bali Maharaj worshipped him by washing his lotus feet. Tatpada shocham Janakalmashapaham
Yasocha Janmaham
Sadharma Vinmudya Dadat Sumangalam
Dharma Vinmordaya Mangas
Yatteva Devo Girishas Chandramaule
Girishas Chandramale
Aramurna Parayacha Bhaktya
Dadara Nakarya Chabhaktya
Lord Shiva, the best of demigods, who carries on his forehead the emblem of the moon, receives on his head with great devotion the Ganges water emanating from the toe of Vishnu. Being aware of religious principles, Bali Maharaj knew this. Consequently, following in the footsteps of Lord Shiva, he also placed on his head the water that had washed the Lord's lotus feet. Purport. Lord Shiva is known as Gangadhara, or one who carries the water of the Ganges on his head. On Lord Shiva's forehead is the emblem of the half moon. Yet to give supreme respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva placed the water of the Ganges above this emblem. This example should be followed by everyone, or at least by every devotee, because Lord Shiva is one of the Mahajans. Similarly, Maharaj Bali also later became a Mahajan. One Mahajan follows another Mahajan. And by following the Parampara system of Mahajan activities, one can become advanced in spiritual consciousness. The water of the Ganges is sanctified because it emanates from the toe of Lord Vishnu. Bali Maharaj washed the lotus feet of Vamanadev, and the water with which he did so became equal to the Ganges. Bali Maharaj, who perfectly knew all religious principles, therefore took that water on his head, following in the footsteps of Lord Shiva. Om Jnanatimirandhasya
Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha.
So the story of Bali Maharaj and Vamanadev is actually a story that's told again and again and again throughout all the Vedic literatures. The very first time it is told or referenced is in the Rig Veda, where the most famous activity that Lord Vishnu does is his role as Trivikrama, the one who takes 3 large steps. Tri means 3, and Krama means step, and Ve means big. So 3 large steps, the one who takes 3 huge steps. And so this, whenever Lord Vishnu is worshipped in the Rig Veda, like with the mantra Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Suraya, then in those instances, he's almost always referred to, he's being referenced as Trivikrama. And that role of the Lord as taking 3 steps that measure the entire universe is considered to be as powerful as the sun, because the sun also measures all 3 all steps of the universe every day, from its sunrise to noon and to sunset. It takes 3 steps that cover the entire universe. So in this way, the Lord is glorified in the Rig Veda as being very similar to the sun, because he covers this. Here also, he's being described as brilliant as the sun, because that connection between the sun and Trivikrama is very, very old. It's very ancient, that role, because we can see that in his form as Surya Narayan, as Lord Vishnu, who resides in the core of the sun, the Lord covers the universe. Every day he takes his 3 steps. And this is why we worship the sun god, right? Yash Chakshuresha Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Ashesha Teja Yasyagnyaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakru
Govindamadi Purusham Tamam.
That Krishna is Govinda. By the power of the sun god, he in his role as the sun, he is covering this entire universe and moving the wheel of time every day. And so also when we chant Gayatri Mantra, then we're praying to the Lord in this form as Surya Narayan, and also as Trivikrama, as Ramana, who covers this universe with his 3 steps. So then after the Rig Veda, this katha of Vamanadev is told over and over again in every Purana, every Shastra, Mahabharata, and Ramayana, and everywhere it's either the story is told or it's referenced at least. But Srimad Bhagavatam, as always, is a very unique scripture. It is not like the others because it is Amala Purana, right? It's this Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Mohorohu Rasika, no, Dharma Projita Kaitahotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Sadam Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu Shivadam Tapat Trayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Parai. So what is the use, Kimva Parai, of other scriptures when Srimad Bhagavatam is there? Because Srimad Bhagavatam contains everything found in other Shastras, plus offers something unique every time. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, like with so many other stories, Srimad Bhagavatam offers a unique perspective because in the story of Bali Maharaj, in the story of Vamanadev, it actually emphasizes, instead of Vamanadev's glories, which of course Bhagavatam also describes, but it actually emphasizes the glories of Bali Maharaj. And Srimad Bhagavatam has a habit of doing this. When we read the story of Lord Nrsingadev, then every Shastra glorifies Lord Nrsingadev as being particularly victorious in establishing dharma and killing the demon Hiranyakashipu. But Srimad Bhagavatam emphasizes particularly, even more than the glories of Lord Nrsingadev, it emphasizes the glories of Prahlad Maharaj. So in this way, Srimad Bhagavatam also in the story of Indra and Vritrasura, then this story is also very ancient, and even in the Rig Veda, Indradev is famous for killing the demon Vritrasura. He's glorified there with many verses describing his ability to kill Vritrasura with his thunderbolt, his Vajra. But Srimad Bhagavatam, instead of glorifying Indra in this situation, ends up glorifying Vritrasura. So in all these cases, Srimad Bhagavatam is glorifying the demons rather than the Lord or the demigod, right? Rather than the Deva who is involved in the story. In Vritrasura, Prahlad Maharaj, Bali Maharaj. So in this way, Srimad Bhagavatam demonstrates that, it demonstrates several things, but one of the things it demonstrates is the power of pure devotional service, of bhakti to Krishna, that it, regardless of what one's background might be, and we'll see here, Lord Vamanadev will spend quite a bit of time glorifying the family of Bali Maharaj, glorifying Prahlad Maharaj, glorifying Virochan, his father, and glorifying Bali Maharaj himself. So he'll speak very highly of this family. And so much did the Lord think of this family that just for the sake of this family, the Lord had to appear 3 times, right? He appeared first as Lord Varaha to kill Hiranyaksha. And after he killed Hiranyaksha, then he made an enemy out of Hiranyakashipu, who already disliked the Lord, but he really disliked him after he killed his brother. And so then the Lord had to come as Hiranyakashipu to deal with him. To deal with Hiranyakashipu. And then after that, then one generation, Virochan, he was also a very great pious person. He was one of the most generous demons that have ever existed, Virochan. And then the Lord glorifies him, and then he has to come a 3rd time in order to protect Indra from Bali Maharaj and his power and strength. So such a glorious family that Krishna had to appear 3 times in just 3 generations, 3 times in 3 generations, in order to deal with the troubles caused by them. And these troubles were of such nature that not only were they troubles that the Lord had to deal with, but they were also associated with some of the greatest devotees that we know of, right? In this family alone, we have two Mahajans who appear, Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj. This is the power of Vaishnav family life, right? That even in family life of Vaishnav, and Prabhupada will speak of this a few verses down, right? That he quotes this verse, Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi, Shudra Kenanoi, Jai Krishna Tattva Veta Se Guru Hoy. That it doesn't matter whether one is in a Brahmin family or Shudra family, or whether one is a householder or a sannyasi. Right? The power of bhakti is so great. And in this case, we see it doesn't matter whether one is born in a demon family. The power of bhakti is so great, the Lord's devotional service, that it can completely capture Krishna. So here, Lord Vamadev has appeared, and right now, he's still in the form of Vaman, which is a dwarf, and he's arrived in the. He's decided to visit the assembly of the yajna, which is being performed by Bhrihus, by these Brahmins in the family of Bhrigu. To this day, these Brahmins are considered to be extra powerful, right? Very skilled in the study of Jyotish Shastra and very powerful in the performing of yajna. Even today, their families are glorified that come in the family of Bhrigu. So Bali Maharaj had the best Brahmins performing the best kind of yajna, which is Ashwamedha yajna, for him. And when the Lord appeared, then it's very interesting because all these Bhrigus are, of course, very learned in all the Shastras, right? They're knowers of all the Vedas. This is why they're able to perform these yajnas. And as the Lord appears and they see his brilliance, then they notice, then they're debating amongst one another that who's come. He says, Surya Kila. Maybe it's Surya Dev who has come. Sanat Kumaro Patha. Or maybe it's Sanat Kumar who's come. Or maybe it's Vibhavasu, meaning Agni, the fire god. So it's interesting. It's funny because these are the most learned Brahmins in the world, and yet when the Lord appears, they're unable to recognize him. It's not easy to recognize Krishna. It means every incarnation the Lord appears in, it's very difficult to recognize him for anyone except his devotee. When the Lord appeared as Varahadev, then other than his devotees, no one could recognize who he is. Right? They thought, oh, this is an animal. And Hiranyaksha famously insulted him by saying, oh, you amphibious beast. Right? This is what he thought he was. And similarly, when he appeared as Lord Nrsingadev, then Hiranyakashipu was very confused. He said, Na mrigam na manusham. This is not a man, it's not an animal. What kind of being is your God? He asked Prahlad. When the Lord appears as Lord Krishna, then also people don't recognize him, right? Duryodhan had great trouble understanding who Krishna was. He generally thought that the Lord was someone special, someone unusual, but a little bit better than he was. Right? Just not too much, but just a little more. He had more magical powers. So whatever our status is, then people get confused thinking the Lord is strong, but just a little bit better than I am. Because when Krishna appears, he never he's never obvious, even though it looks so obvious, right? With every step, he's pushing down the earth. And his brilliance is such that it looks like the sun is rising. And yet, they think of everyone except Krishna. You think maybe he's the sun god, maybe he's Sanat Kumar, maybe he's Agni, right? All the different possibilities. Why? Because these are the things in their experience. These are Bhrigus, they're great sages who are doing yajna in Indralok. So they're used to seeing Agni. They're used to seeing Sanat Kumar. They're used to seeing Surya Dev. These are personalities who don't show up every day, but if they showed up, it would be not that unusual. It would be a little unusual. Similarly, when Krishna appeared, then Duryodhana was used to seeing very great magical personalities who could do all kinds of mystical powers and had abilities and so on. So Krishna was unusual, but not terribly unusual. Similarly, when he appears as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then the Lord is unusual in that he has, he's so tall and he's beautiful golden limbs, and he's chanting and dancing in ecstasy, and he's able to just touch people and give them ecstatic love for God. But he's not so unusual that people will see him and think that he's the Supreme Personality of God automatically. He's just a little bit more unusual than is regular for Kali Yuga. If the Lord appeared as Varahadev in Kali Yuga, then people would. So the Lord always appears in a circumstance where he can remain hidden. Because he says in Bhagavad Gita, he makes this clear, right? Vedaham samatitani, vartamanani chajana, bhavishyani cha bhutani, mam tu vedana kaschana. That I know everything. I know the past, present, and future, and I know all living entities. But me, no one knows. He remains hidden, and he describes to Arjuna that this is guhyam, the science I'm giving to you. Guhyat guhyataram. It's more secret than the most secret thing that there is. So, how do we recognize Krishna then? Because Krishna's appearance is no guarantee that we will even know that he appears, not to mention that we will actually be able to take advantage of his association. Because people are so eager to see Krishna, so eager to have his darshan. But we have no guarantee that when the time comes, we will actually be able to recognize Krishna and not see him as just a little bit better than I am. There's no guarantee of that. So how is he recognizable? And there's a couple of things that are described here, but the most important thing that is described is Krishna's lotus feet. That the Lord is always recognizable through his lotus feet. When he appears as Lord Krishna, when he appears as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right, then always they, whoever's taking care of him, they notice his lotus feet, and particularly the markings on his feet of the dhwaja and the thunderbolt and the vajra and the fish and all these different markings. And by observing his lotus feet, the great devotees and sages can always recognize that Krishna is here. So if you recall, when Akrura went to Vrindavan Dham, then as he entered Vrindavan, how did he know that he was in the home of the Supreme Lord, right? That he had arrived in Sri Vrindavan Dham, that the Lord himself was present. The first thing that he saw there immediately upon entrance was Krishna's footprints. Right? He saw Krishna's footprints. And immediately when he saw those footprints, he got off the chariot and became very ecstatic and began rolling in the dust of Vrindavan in great ecstasy and offering so many prayers to the Lord just at that very spot. When Sanat Kumar, Sanat, Sanatan, Sanandan, Sanat Kumar, the four Kumaras arrived in Vaikuntha and they were eager to have darshan of the Lord, then it's described that the thing that they were most eager to see was Krishna's lotus feet. Right? And therefore, when they became very angry because they had been stopped by Jai and Vijay to enter Vaikuntha, then in order to mitigate the situation, the Lord ran very quickly to the gates of Vaikuntha. And it is said that he ran barefoot because he thought that if I come barefoot, then they will be able to see that object for which they arrived in Vaikuntha, namely my lotus feet. And in this way, their anger will be calmed. It will be reduced because they will see my lotus feet. And indeed, it's described that the very first thing that the four Kumaras saw was his lotus feet. Like Dasyaravinda Nayanasya Padaravinda Kinjalka Mishra Tulasi Makaranda Vayu. When they saw his lotus feet and they smelled the fragrance of the tulasi leaves offered at his lotus feet, then they became antargata swavivarena chakara tesham sankshobham. They became very, very agitated as a result of that fragrance, and they lost all the stability that they had through the performance of yoga and the cultivation of jnana. They became agitated in mind and in heart, which is something that they had never experienced before in their lives as Kumaras. So everywhere we find that when Krishna's lotus feet become visible to the devotee, then those lotus feet immediately give him away, right? And the devotees are able to recognize him right away. This is why this verse here, it says, there's one beautiful line. He says, thus offering a proper reception to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always beautiful to the liberated souls. Bali Maharaj worshipped him by washing his lotus feet. So, in other words, Krishna is always beautiful to the liberated souls. Meaning what? First of all, he's recognizable to the liberated souls. When he appeared as Varahadev, then immediately Lord Brahma, it took Lord Brahma one moment, right? Even he became confused for just a moment. This Varaha coming from his nose. He became very confused. There's a water coming from my nose. Right? So for a moment he became confused. This is very confusing. But then immediately, as soon as he saw the Lord, then he recognized that this is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, no matter who. And he appeared very beautiful to Lord Brahma and to all the assembled sages, who became very ecstatic and began chanting Vedic mantras to receive him. And Varahadev, when he appeared, he was shaking himself. In this way, because the water on his bristles, Vor has very hard hair bristles, shaking, and it was sprinkling everyone. And they became very happy, which is an unusual thing, because in general, for Brahmins to be sprinkled by the water shaken from a body of a hog is considered to be very impure, right? Like if you're in Vrindavan or in India or someplace and you come across a pig and the pig touches you, and it's very unclean, very ugly. But they felt very purified by that kind of touch from the Lord. So the Lord is always beautiful, and even to Prahlad Maharaj, half man, half lion, everyone was confused, everyone was afraid, but Prahlad Maharaj found him to be very beautiful in his form, in his shape. So here also, the Lord is completely unrecognizable to the most qualified people who are present there. But he will very soon become recognizable to his devotee, Bali Maharaj, who is washing his lotus feet. And Bali Maharaj here already knows, right? He hasn't yet officially been told by his guru, Shukracharya. Shukracharya is still putting together the evidence, right? He's doing the analysis. That this young boy, he's come to ask this. This is probably Vishnu in disguise. And he's figuring things out. But it takes him too long to figure it out. Because Bali Maharaj will promise in just a few verses to give anything he likes. He's going to make that promise. By that point, it's too late. Shukracharya in the next chapter, he says, this is Lord Vishnu. You should stop. Don't promise him anything. But Bali Maharaj says, I've already promised, right? So through his analysis, Shukracharya is able to come to this conclusion. But Bali Maharaj comes to the conclusion not through any analysis, but just by touching the Lord's lotus feet. Right? When he comes in contact with Krishna's lotus feet, then immediately he understands. And he takes that water and puts it upon his head, just like Lord Shiva did, because he understands the water in the Ganga. So Krishna's lotus feet and his footprints are very special, and they're described throughout the scriptures. One more time, in the pastime of Kaliya, when the you remember what is the Lord's what's the role of his footprints there?
His role was he danced on Kalia's head. So, when Kalia and his wives were talking to Krishna about they couldn't be there at where I think was Yamuna or something. Garuda was making them go to the Ganga because they couldn't be there. And Krishna says, well, now Garuda will know that I sent you guys.
Yes, exactly. So those footprints for Kalia, they meant protection, right? Because the Lord had placed his feet on his head, then he was protected from the greatest danger, which for him was Garuda. But also, then on top of that, then is for this reason the wives of Kalia and also Kalia himself, they pray, they glorify Krishna. They say that those lotus feet, which even the great yogis aspire to achieve, and still they cannot find them, they cannot grasp them, just like these Brahmins here. Right? Their goal is to achieve Krishna's lotus feet. This is the purpose of all the yagyas. But yet they're not able to find these feet, even though the Lord is walking right past them, right, and pushing down the earth with every step they cannot see. So Kalia says that, my dear Lord, I'm so fortunate that you have forcibly put those lotus feet upon my head, right? That you've made me accept those feet upon my head. So how lucky, how fortunate I am. There's also one more role for Krishna's footprints in the Kaliya Leela. Remember? He steps on Kalia, and Kalia is very happy about that. But what else happens in the story where the Lord's footprints are important?
When the Brajvasis are looking for where Krishna is, because he didn't, they were the ill omens, so they followed his footprints really long.
Exactly. So the Brajvasis, they see all these ill omens in the sky, right, and on the earth, and they become very nervous because something bad has happened to Krishna, and then they receive news about this, and they go in a panic, and they don't know where Krishna is because Braj Mandal is very, very large, and so what they do is they follow Krishna's footprints from the village all the way to the banks of the Yamuna, and there they find him. Right? So Krishna's, even if Krishna's lotus feet are inaccessible to us, then at least his footprints are available, just like they were to Akrura, just like they were to the Brajvasis, just like they were to Kalia. These footprints are very precious for the devotees, and these footprints are available to us even today, in our own time. Krishna's footprints are present to us in so many different forms, but most importantly through Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? Krishna's lotus feet are the first two cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. And by studying the first two cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam nicely, then we can come to recognize Krishna's lotus feet. And once we recognize Krishna's lotus feet, then we can recognize him in all his features. If he were to appear, when he appears in front of us, we will be able to see who he is and to recognize him, rather than confusing him for this or that personality. So Srila Prabhupada has been very kind to us in that he's placed Krishna's footprints all over this world, right? In the form of his of this Srimad Bhagavatam. He's placed Krishna's footprints in so many different homes, right? And so many temples in every town and village, and in so many libraries, Krishna's footprints are there. And just like the Brajvasis follow those footprints to find Krishna, so many living entities, they get a hold of Srimad Bhagavatam, they get a hold of Bhagavad Gita, and they read these books and they follow the path, right? And they find themselves under the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. In the same way, Srila Prabhupada created these temples to Lord Krishna all over the world. And there also in every temple, we find Krishna's form and we find his lotus feet. And everyone can come and have darshan of those lotus feet. In this way, they can find Krishna, they can learn to see Krishna. So seeing Krishna is a process, right? It's a process. And it happens only through the process of bhakti. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hidayeshu Vilokayam Yam Shama Sundaram Achintara Swarupam Gopindamadikam Prabhu. And you see here that these Bhrigus, so powerful they are in being able to perform yajna. Yet, because they did not have Premanjana Churita, they didn't have the sense of love and surrender towards Krishna. Therefore, they're unable to recognize him, even as he walks right into their Yagyashala. They don't understand who he is. And Bali Maharaj, because that bhakti is present, immediately he understands what I have to do. I have to wash his lotus feet, and I have to take this water upon his head, because Lord Shiva did the same thing and benefited in such a wonderful way. So we'll stop here and see if there's any questions or comments or thoughts in the verses that we read today. Yes.
So I was a little confused because sometimes Ramana is described as like a dwarf, like the dwarf incarnation, and then one of the verses said as a Brahmin boy. Was he like a child or was he like a dwarf?
Both. He was a dwarf, but also he was just born, right? So he was the young child also. And he created a lot of motherly affection in everyone who saw him. Everyone felt very affectionate, and they trusted him for that reason also. So that was the Lord's cheating, right? That he came as a little boy who was very, very sweet and very cute to look at. And as soon as people saw him, immediately their defenses went down. Right? Just like you see a little child who's smiling and happy and joyful, then you don't think that this person is going to pickpocket me. Right? This is why they use children as pickpockets, because they think, oh, this person is very innocent. They're not going to do anything. Small child. And the sweeter they are, the more you trust. So the Lord took this form also. There's another reason for that. It's because he was very charming. And so Bali Maharaj and people in the assembly were just completely enamored, not just by his tejas, by his brilliance, but also by his beauty and his sweetness. And they said, whatever you want, because what can a child ask, right? A child won't. How much can a child even carry, even if he asks, right? How much can he take? Just a little bit, not too much. And so he felt very comfortable promising him everything, which was of course a mistake.
I mean, he became a Mahajan after that, so one way it's not a mistake. But
No, Shukracharya thought it was a mistake.
in the last talk you made about footsteps, I think also showed like one other example with the Mahajan Parampara system in following footsteps.
Yeah.
It's also steps. The footprints of Krishna are present because they are following.
Yes, that's good. Yeah, very nice point. So Krishna's footprints, not only are they present through Srimad Bhagavatam and through these temples, but in fact, most importantly, Bhagavatam says that anywhere Krishna places his lotus feet, that place becomes a tirtha, a holy place. Right? It becomes a sacred place. And those tirthas are carried from place to place. Tirthi kurvanti tirthani swantastena gadabhrata. That the pure devotees of the Lord, because they carry Krishna's lotus feet within their hearts, swantastena gadabhrata. Gadabhrata means the Lord, Krishna, Vishnu. Antasthena, he's always there within the heart. Therefore, tirthi kurvanti tirthani. They make the tirthas into tirthas by their presence. They create tirthi kurvanti. They make tirthas because they carry the Lord within their heart. So we see that Srila Prabhupada himself made so many holy places, right? That he brought Krishna to so many places, and in the process, he placed Krishna's footprints there in those places and in the hearts of so many devotees. And then those devotees then carried Prabhupada's message further and created so many holy places as well. where Krishna can be found and can be recognized. So Prabhupada is making this point in the purport that we read of the parampara system, that this is the system of the parampara. It's Mahajano Yena Gata Sapantha, right? That we follow in the footsteps of the Mahajans. Then Krishna's lotus feet become very easily accessible to us as well.
So they're saying that Bali Maharaj followed the footsteps of Shiva, but how did he not imitate what Shiva did? Suppose Shiva put the water on his head. So how did he not imitate but follow the footsteps?
The principle was that when water or anything is offered to the Lord, then we receive it on our head. That's the principle he followed. Imitation would have meant if he had tried to take the whole Ganga River on his head.
Also, imitation is like you do exactly what they did.
Exactly.
Oh.
I'm gonna put the moon on my head and take the entire Ganga. That only Mahadev can do.
Yeah.
That only Lord. That's his role for Shiva. Bali Maharaj had a different seva to do, and if we try to imitate Bali Maharaj in his seva, then we will also become pretenders. But we can follow, Prabhupada is saying, as we can follow in the footsteps of the Mahajans.
So this technical thing I was asking. So Ganga didn't come really till when they pierced the covering. So how could Lord Shiva, unless the Bhagavad stories before that?
Yeah, I was also thinking the same thing. That when Lord Vamanadev in his third step, he pierces the covering of the universe, then the Ganga emerges from beyond this universal covering from the waters of the Garbhodak ocean, and then flows into this earth, and it washes the feet of the Lord, and then flows into the heavenly planets, and then comes to earth, where Lord Shiva takes it in his hair to protect the earth, the residents. So all this Leela would have happened after. But we also understand that these pastimes are eternal and ever happening. And so typically when there's a chronological issue, then the acharyas, they say that this is kalpa bheda, right? That in different kalpas, different leelas happen. So because these are well known, these pastimes, then through the scriptures, and the scriptures are eternal, therefore even things that are yet to happen in the future, they can know and appreciate in the past. So there's many cases like this where Krishna's pastimes are glorified by devotees who appear before Krishna appeared on earth, like before, because Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's Leela happens at the end of Dwapar, beginning of Kali Yuga, that time. But so many devotees glorify this pastime even when they appear before in previous yugas, right? So Krishna, because the pastimes are eternal and they're recorded in Shastra, therefore then they can be remembered and appreciated by the devotees, even if it's not quite in chronological.
So as we see in, many stories that there are two sides, like, Brahmanas, Bhrigu's hair, and then Bali Maharaj. So Bhrigu's could not recognize and Bali Maharaj immediately recognized. Similarly, in the story of, Krishna came to Brahmanas and Brahmanas' wife, they immediately offered and Brahmanas couldn't. So, Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad Maharaj. So I was wondering, like, is this because of gyan, meaning, their knowledge? That's why they were not able to recognize what was holding them, that they were not able to recognize, even though they were like Brahmanas, or, so gyan is something.
So Queen Kunti mentions this. She says, Janmaishwarya Shruta Shribhir Edamana Madapuman Naivar Hatya Vidhatum Vai Tvam Akinchana Gocharam. That, my dear Lord, you cannot be achieved or recognized by those who are too attached to Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, and Shri. These four things, right? So Janma means birth in an aristocratic family. Aishwarya means opulence. Shruta means learning or knowledge. And Shri means beauty. These four things prevent a person, or opulence. These four things prevent a person from being able to naivarhati abhidhatum vai. You're not able to be recognized. Right? So in these cases in particular, we see that both their janma and their shruta are coming in the way, right? That I'm born in a Brahmin family, and therefore I'm very elevated, and also I'm very learned, and so I can use my intelligence to capture, to understand Krishna. And Krishna, of course, then he's very expert at evading the shakti, the powers that come from these four things. Right? So if someone is very wealthy, like Ravan was, and he wanted to build a staircase to heaven, so then in that case, is Ravan or Hiranyakashipu? No. So the Lord was very expert at evading his attempts to use Aishwarya or Shri, which is Sita Devi, Lakshmi, in order to enjoy, right, and to capture him. Krishna he avoids that. Similarly, when someone has a lot of knowledge, and they think that they can capture Krishna as a result of that knowledge, then Krishna is very expert at avoiding that, of fooling them, completely bewildering them. And so when the Brahmins, when the Brahmins, in Krishna Lila, when they become confused by this, they forget that the purpose of yajna is to feed Krishna, right? And yet Krishna is asking them for food, and they're ignoring it. And there's that wonderful verse, I don't have it memorized, but they become so angry at all these qualifications they have, right? Hik janma, they say, is condemned is our birth. Dhikyanam, condemned is our knowledge. That all these things put together, and we couldn't recognize Krishna when he showed knocking at our door. So this is such a consistent theme throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, is our inability to recognize Krishna when he is the most obvious person on the scene. Right? Like as Varahadev is the most obvious person on the scene. Nishingadev is the most obvious. Vamandev is the most obvious. Everyone's attention at this moment turns towards Vamadev. Everyone stops what they're doing and they look at this little boy. So he's not even like showing up in like as some tiny little ant, that everyone misses it. Krishna comes as the most obvious person on the scene. And he makes himself very clear on one level, and yet completely invisible on another level. So it really, we have to ask ourselves, the question is, what does it mean to see God? Right? What does it mean to have darshan with Krishna? That we can see things through these material eyes, but of course, these material eyes, we know these eyes are completely useless because they can't see anything even in the dark or without glasses, in my case. What's the use of these eyes, material eyes, right? But then that even these sages will know, right? That these material eyes are, pratyaksha is pretty useless for seeing Krishna. But then they feel that, okay, I can see through the eyes of knowledge. And that's actually true, right? I mean, the eyes of knowledge are much more powerful than these eyes. This is why they're called jnana chakshu, right? Or Shastra Chakshu, is because through the eyes of knowledge, through the eyes of Shastra, we can see much further than we can see with these eyes, right? We can become even Trikalagya, we can Trikaldarshi. We can see past, present, and future through the eyes of knowledge. We can see into the heart of other living entities, and we can recognize what is their nature, what is their anartha, what is their ability. This is why it's Shukadev Goswami is described as Sarva Bhuta Hridayam Munimag Anatos, and that he's entered the hearts of all living entities. By the process of this knowledge of jnana, nirgranta hyapyurukrume, you can actually see the condition of different living entities. You can see who they are. You can see what they need, what they want. You can gain so many things. That knowledge gives us so much power and so much ability. This is called jnana chakshu. Jnana dipena bhaskara, Krishna says. So that knowledge, that jnana chakshu is very powerful. But beyond even that Jnana Chakshu is the eyes of Bhakti. Premanjana Charito Bhakti Vilochana. So those eyes are the eyes through which we get darshan of the Lord. Right? And so these Brahmins and those Brahmins in Vrindavan, these Brahmins here in Indralok, they all have Jnana Chakshu, which are very, very powerful. Right? And those Jnana Chakshu, they can bring us to the level, to the ability of seeing Paramatma. We can appreciate Paramatma through Jnana Chakshu. This is described in Bhagavad Gita, that Jitatmana Prashantasya Paramatma Samahita. That when we become self-controlled and Jitatmana and Prashantasya. So this is basically the position of Jnana, knowledge. Right? Jitatmana Prashantasya Paramatma Samahita. Then at that point, we are in Samadhi. We are connected to Paramatma. So these eyes can bring us not even close to Krishna. But Jnana Chakshu can bring us at least to the level of Paramatma realization, maximum, not at least, maximum. They bring us at least to the level of Brahma Gyan, and then they can bring us to Paramatma Chakshu, where we see the hand of God in everything. We recognize, we don't know exactly Krishna as a person, we don't have a relationship, but we understand that he's acting in the world through his Paramatma feature, through his abilities. We see his presence in all things. And we see that sometimes even great learned scholars come to this point. Like Sanak, Sanatan, Sanandan, and Sanat Kumar. The four Kumaras basically had Jnana Chakshu, right? And those Jnana Chakshu allowed them to come to the gates of Vaikuntha. But they could not proceed any further beyond that because they had not been blessed yet with Bhakti Vilochanena. But those eyes of Bhakti, when you receive them, then you are able to see actually Krishna himself. And those eyes of Bhakti Vilochanena, come through the mercy of a pure devotee. That when a pure devotee gives us the gift of Bhakti, then we're able to see things that we've never seen before in terms of the form of the Lord. And that is the vision that even such uncivilized, immoral persons as Nalkuvar and Manigriv were misbehaved. Even they received the vision of Krishna. Why? Because they had received this Bhakti Vilochanena, these eyes of Bhakti through the mercy of a pure devotee, namely through Narayana. And then you're able to see that which others cannot see. So we'll find out here that Bali Maharaj also, by the mercy of Prahlad Maharaj and being born in this wonderful family, then he has this capacity to recognize the Lord, right? Because that bhakti is present within his heart. Whereas these Bhrigus, because they have not received the mercy of a Vaishnav, then even with all their knowledge, they piece two and two together. And Shukracharya eventually comes to the conclusion that this is Vishnu. But his understanding of Vishnu is very much just, that supreme being who controls everything, right? That the sense of Paramatma, not the one with whom you have a relationship, with whom you have to give everything. And that he doesn't see, right? He cannot appreciate. Bali Maharaj is the one who will say, okay, if it's Krishna, if it's Vishnu, and he's come begging, then what could be a greater honor? And if the Lord himself has come to my door with his hands open, let me reciprocate to him. So he is responding in love to the Lord, but Shukracharya can only see him as Paramatma, right? As Vishnu only. That's it, and as a threat to his material enjoyment.
Wow.
This I was just thinking like Ramana's wife, and whoever has a simple heart, that attracts the Lord's mercy and devotee's mercy. But how to become, that simple? It's very hard. We're so duplicit. I'm just talking about myself that in our spiritual life also we have two faces, and it's sometimes now after so many years we feel frustrated because of this, and then we really want to be a simple person, but then so many distractions, and how can we do so that we can get we can attract the mercy, we can be an object of mercy of devotee. So
Yeah, so basically, Janma, Shwarya, Shruta, Shri, these four things are exactly the things that remove the simplicity, that cause the complexity, which ends up hiding Krishna from us. Right? This is what does the opposite of simplicity is complexity, and complexity is created by four things: Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, and Shri. Right? These four things are attempt to be knowledgeable, to be beautiful, to be wealthy, and to achieve some status. Right? Janma means a status based on birth, but any kind of position, personality. So these are basically upadhis, right, that we carry. Sarvopadhi vinarupam. These upadhis, or these labels, these positions, these various forms of glorification, they add complexity. Why? Because anytime then you have something that glorifies you, then you have to protect that, right? You have to, like, just like if you have some kind of position, then you have to protect that image of yourself. So then you have to be worthy. So then you have to carry yourself in a certain way, because people think, oh, this person is in a position. Now this person needs to be respected or honored. And you think, yes, I'm also worthy of honor. I'm in this position. So then I have to then hide all those things that don't match with that position, right? So because people expect something of me, and I'm not there, so therefore then I have to pretend to be there. And as soon as you do that, then duplicity is introduced into the system, right? In the same way, if someone has a lot of knowledge, and that knowledge, not having knowledge is not a problem. When that knowledge becomes a goal, right? It becomes our aspiration. It becomes our laksha. Then that knowledge adds so much complexity, because then instead of understanding Krishna simply, then we end up using our intelligence to figure him out. And we come into so many ifs and buts and maybes and perhaps and like this and like that. We can't appreciate Krishna simply and directly, right? Because all these calculations are going on in the head about who Krishna is and how I can get around him. And it gives us too much ability in that way. Similarly with wealth, right? Same thing. It adds so much complexity. With that wealth, we have to then protect that wealth, and we have to manage it. We have to arrange it, and we have to use it, and we have to keep it from people who want to take it away. So all these things, when they become goals in themselves, then they become upadhis, and then they add to the complexity, which leads to duplicity, which reduces our simplicity. So the key thing then is developing detachment. The only way to be simple is through the cultivation of detachment. That's what simplicity means, is when you become detached. So long as we're attached to these four things, having them is not the issue. Again, Maharaj Ambarish had all of them. He had Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, Shri, everything he had, right? But he's held up as one of the best examples of Vaishnav. But when these four things become objects of our own attachment and our own enjoyment, to the degree that we are attached to them, to that degree, we will introduce a duplicity in our lives, right? Then we cannot be simple devotees, because there's always something to complicate. Just like when the Brahmins wanted to, even after they recognized that their wives were so much simpler in their bhakti towards Krishna, and they said this verse, Dhik Janma, Dhik Jnanam, like this. They criticized all those things which introduced this lack of simplicity in their life. Even then, after recognizing, they could not go see Krishna. At that point, they wanted to. They wanted to go see Krishna in the forest. They said, now let us go see him. Right? At least at this point, we can beg forgiveness and have his darshan. But they could not go. Why?
Working for God.
They were afraid of Kansa. And why were they afraid of him? because of their attachment to position and status. They were very learned Brahmins, and they thought very highly, and all their position and everything would be lost if they went. So even then, they knew that this is to be done, but they couldn't because that attachment was still there. So it's only through detachment that we can expect that simplicity to arise.
That's why also the gopis are the highest because they get rid of they'll do anything.
Yes, their renunciation is complete. It's 100%. They're willing to renounce everything for his sake. So this is a gradual process. We can't do it overnight, but gradually we have to take those things that we are attached to and gradually give them up step by step, become detached. And to the degree we can become detached, to the degree we can actually feel Krishna's presence. To that degree we can actually taste something in the holy names. And to that degree we can taste something in Srimad Bhagavatam, is the degree to which we are detached. Otherwise it's just sentimentalism.
So, does giving detachment mean like giving things up, or does it mean just I don't know.
It primarily means using them in Krishna's service. That's real detachment. Is Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. That Yukta Vairagya means Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. That we put everything in relationship to Krishna and we use it for his service. And when we do that, like Maharaj Ambarish, how does that begin? That verse describing his Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo Pachansi Vaikunta Gunanu Vardhane. That he used his Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo. His mind was engaged in Krishna's lotus feet. And Vachansi Vaikunta Gunanu Vardhane. And his words and glorified. And then his hands Tadmandira Marjanadam in cleaning his temple.
And also the Prabhupada didn't give up. He says, if you have money, then give it.
Yeah.
Build temples.
Yes. Yeah. You see in Prabhupada's life, when he had no money, he was penniless, he was completely satisfied. And when he had the whole world, so many cars and temples and all of that, and he was completely satisfied. Right? That's how you see that a person is actually using it for Krishna. And sometimes we use it for Krishna, but we're actually using it for ourselves in Krishna's name. So the test comes when Krishna takes it away. It's like nice prasad, right? Offering to Krishna for his pleasure. We'll just take it on a limb. The test comes when Krishna doesn't give us the nice prasad. Then are we able to control our senses? Then we know, oh, was I eating for my pleasure? So that's why Krishna sometimes takes away for a short period in order to check, allow us to check whether we're using it for him or we're using it for ourselves.
Especially when, like Bala Maharaj, when he said no to Shukracharya, so didn't he get Guru Uprat?
That's a topic for tomorrow. To that subject. They will progress step by step through the story. Okay, so thank you all so much. Please return tomorrow for the rest of the class. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Ki jai. His Grace Radhika Raman Prabhu ki jai. Thank you all very much for joining us online. All Richmond devotees are here. So thank you all very much, and we'll continue same time tomorrow. Hare Krishna.